The transport shuttle shook as it entered the docking bay of station, held the metal bar above her head and watched through the small window. The station was bigger than any city she had ever seen. It floated between two suns, glowing like a jewel in the darkness of space. "We made it," said beside her. He was smiling, but his hands were shaking. They had been friends since childhood, growing up in the same small town in Korea. Now they were here at the Galactic Military Academy, where thousands of alien species trained to serve in the Coalition fleet. Did not smile, she only nodded. The shuttle door opened with a hiss. Cold air rushed in, carrying strange smells, stepped out first, followed by 12 other humans. They were the new recruits from Earth. The docking bay was filled with aliens. Some were tall, covered in hard shells like insects. Others had 4 arms or 6 legs. A group of stood near the wall, watching the humans with yellow eyes. They were 8 feet tall, with natural armor on their bodies. One of them laughed and pointed at the humans. "Look at them," they said in the common language. "So small, so soft. I give them 1 week before they run home crying." His friends laughed with him. Heard everything. She kept her face empty and walked forward. A floating robot guided them to the registration area. The room was long and white, filled with scanning machines. Aliens stood in different lines, waiting their turn. The humans joined the shortest line. When reached the front, a thin alien with gray skin looked at her with 4 eyes. "Place your hand on the scanner," it said in a bored voice. Placed her palm on the cold glass. Blue light moved across her skin. The machine made a soft humming sound. Then it stopped. A red light flashed on the screen. The gray alien frowned and hit the side of the machine. "Stupid human technology incompatibility," it muttered. The red light disappeared. The machine printed a small card with its name and picture. "Take this. Move on." Took the card. She had seen the red warning on the screen. It had appeared for only 2 seconds, but she knew what it meant. The system had tried to access a file it was not allowed to open, a file hidden deep inside her blood. She said nothing. The humans were taken to their barracks. The room was small, with metal beds stacked against the walls. There was no window. The floor was cold under their feet. "This is worse than the army back home," one of the recruits complained. Sat on the bed next to. "Are you okay? You have been quiet since we arrived." "I am fine," said, "just watching." "Watching what?" "Everything." The next morning, all new cadets gathered in the main training hall. The room was huge, with high ceilings and walls made of dark metal. Hundreds of aliens stood in neat rows. The humans were placed at the back in the corner. Commander walked onto the raised platform at the front. He was in with a hard black shell and eyes that reflected light like mirrors. His voice was deep and cold. "You are here because your planets believe you are the best," he said. "You are wrong, you are nothing. The Coalition does not care about your past. Here you prove yourself or you fail. There is no middle." He looked across the room. His eyes stopped on the humans. "Some of you come from species that have only recently joined us. Species that are still learning to walk among the stars. Do not expect special treatment. The universe does not give special treatment. It kills the weak." A 4-armed reptilian alien stepped forward. His scales were green and his teeth were sharp. This was Instructor. He looked at the humans with open disgust. "Squad assignments," announced. He read names from a glowing tablet. Most humans were placed in low-tier squads. When he reached name, he smiled in an ugly way. "Of Earth, Squad 9, the lowest training group." He looked at her. "I hope you enjoy cleaning floors, Earthborn. That is all you will be good for." Some aliens laughed, did not react. She simply walked to her assigned area. Was placed in a different squad, but they met again at dinner. The food was strange, but ate without complaint. Could not hide his anger. "That instructor is a monster," he said. "The way he looked at you like you were garbage." He is afraid, said quietly. Afraid of what? Of what he does not understand. She put down her eating tool. Humans have been in the coalition for only 30 years. We are new, we are small, we die easily. To them, we are insects. So we prove them wrong. Looked at her friend. Yes, but not yet, not until the right moment. That night lay on her bed in the dark barracks. The other recruits were asleep, breathing slowly. She lifted her hand and looked at her palm. Faint lines appeared under her skin, glowing soft gold. They formed shapes, patterns that looked like circuits or ancient writing. The light pulsed gently like a heartbeat. Closed her hand into a fist. The light faded. Not yet, she whispered to the darkness. They are not ready to know. Outside the window, the two suns have continued their eternal dance. Somewhere in the station, Commander reviewed the day's registration files. He paused on one that had caused a system error. Of Earth. He stared at the file for a long moment. Then he deleted the error report and moved on. Some secrets were not meant to be found. Not yet. Not until they chose to reveal themselves. And had been waiting a very, very long time. The first week at the academy was hard. Woke before the suns rose and trained until her body screamed for rest. Every day brought new tests. Every day brought new failures. The physical assessment was the worst. Cadets had to run, lift, climb, and fight. The machines measured everything: speed, strength, endurance, reflex time. Scored in the bottom 10%. Instructor read the results aloud in front of everyone. He held the tablet like a weapon. Of Earth, strength rating 14 out of 100, speed rating 22, endurance 19, reflex time below acceptable minimum. He looked up with a cold smile. Congratulations, Earthborn. You are officially the weakest cadet in the academy. The aliens laughed. Some of the humans looked away in shame. Stood still, her face showed nothing. Since you are so special, continued, you will demonstrate for the class. Run the obstacle course, again, until I tell you to stop. The obstacle course was designed for species with 4 legs or wings, had neither. She ran it once, then twice, then 5 times. Her legs burned. Her lungs felt like fire. On the 7th run she fell. Walked over and looked down at her. This is what humans are, he said to the watching cadets. Genetic failures, weak bodies, weak minds. The coalition allows them to join out of pity, not need. Pushed herself up. Blood dripped from a cut on her knee. She stood on shaking legs and looked at. Again, she asked. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, or confusion. He waved his hand. Get out of my sight. That night found in the medical bay. A robot was putting bandages on her wounds. He sat beside her, his face tight with anger. I hate this place, he said. It is exactly what I expected, replied. How can you be so calm? They treat us like animals. Because anger is a fire that burns the one who holds it. She looked at her bandaged knee. I am not here to be angry. I am here to learn. Learn what? How to be humiliated. How they fight, how they think, what makes them strong. She paused. And what makes them weak? The strategy simulation came 2 days later. Each squad had to defend a virtual base against enemy attack. The simulation used holographic technology that felt completely real. Squad 9 gathered in the simulation room. There were 8 members, 2 reptilians, 1 floating gas creature, and 2 humans, and a man named. The squad leader was a reptilian named. He gave orders quickly, placing everyone in defensive positions. Was sent to guard a back door that no one expected to be attacked. The simulation began. Enemy forces appeared from the north just as predicted. The squad fought well for 3 minutes, then everything fell apart. The enemy had split their forces. Half attacked from the north. The other half circled around and hit from the east. Had not planned for this. His defensive line collapsed. The base was destroyed. The simulation ended. Red lights flashed. Failure. Blame the gas creature. Everyone shouted at everyone else. Said nothing. Later found her in the common room. He had watched the simulation recording. I saw what happened, he said quietly. Before the attack you tried to say something too. He ignored you. Yes. What were you going to suggest? Pulled out a small tablet. She had drawn a diagram. The enemy gave signals before they split their forces. Small movements, changes in their formation. I saw it happening. If had moved 2 defenders to the east wall and sent the gas creature as a scout, we would have seen the attack coming. Stared at the diagram. This would have worked. Probably. Why did you not fight harder to be heard? Because no one listens to the weakest cadet in the academy. Put the tablet away. Not yet. The demonstration match was announced on a cold morning. Commander said it would show new cadets what real combat looked like. 2 fighters would battle in the central arena. The whole academy would watch. Instructor volunteered. Her opponent was a cadet. He was 9 feet tall, covered in natural armor. His arms were thick as tree trunks. He had won every match he had ever fought. The arena was a circle of sand surrounded by seats rising high into the air. Thousands of aliens watched. Some cheered for. Some laughed at the tiny human girl walking to the center. Wore simple training clothes. She had no armor, no weapons, just her small body and quiet eyes. Cracked his knuckles. I will try to make this quick, little one, less pain that way. The bell rang. Charged like a falling mountain. Moved. She did not try to block or fight back. She simply was not there when his fist arrived. She slipped under his arm, rolled past his leg, came up behind him. He turned and attacked again. She dodged. This happened again, and again, and again. 1 minute passed, then 2, then 5. The crowd grew quiet. This was not possible. Humans were slow. Everyone knew this. Yet this human girl kept moving like water, like smoke, always 1 step away from death. Grew frustrated. His attacks became wild. Watched his patterns, his breathing, his foot placement. She was not fighting. She was learning. At the 11-minute mark, finally caught her. His massive hand closed around her arm and threw her across the arena. Hit the sand hard and did not get up. The match was over, had won. But he did not celebrate. He stood over his fallen body, breathing hard, and something like fear lived in his yellow eyes. She was not trying to win, he said to himself. She was studying me. Opened her eyes and smiled. After the match, a senior human cadet named approached her. He was tall for a human, with serious eyes and a scar on his chin. "Who are you really?" he asked. Wiped blood from her lip. Someone who needed to see how the galaxy fights. She walked away, leaving standing alone with his questions. And somewhere deep inside station, in a sealed vault that had not been opened for 100,000 years, ancient systems detected a familiar signal. They began to wake up. The attack came without warning. Was eating breakfast when the alarms began. Red lights flashed across the walls. A voice spoke through every speaker in the station. "Emergency. All cadets to shelter positions. This is not a drill." The dining hall became chaos. Aliens ran in every direction. Tables fell. Food spilled across the floor. Stayed calm. She found in the crowd and grabbed his arm. "Stay with me," she said. They moved toward the shelter area, but explosions blocked their path. The walls shook. Smoke filled the air. Through the haze, saw figures moving. They wore black armor and carried weapons that glowed with strange light. "Terrorists," whispered, "but those weapons, I have never seen anything like them." Had in her dreams, in the memories passed down through her blood for 100,000 years, those were precursor weapons, technology from an age when humans ruled the stars. Someone was using the old weapons, someone who should not have them. A group of cadets gathered in a corridor near the station's lower levels. recognized some of them from her squad. The who had defeated her. Even Instructor was there, his green scales covered in dust. "The terrorists are heading down," said. His voice was tight with fear. "They are going for the Vault of Founders." "What is that?" asked. "A sealed archive. It contains records from before the Coalition existed. No one has opened it in over 100,000 years. The technology inside stopped. If they get it, the Coalition is finished." Explosions echoed closer. The lights flickered. "We must stop them," said. "With what?" replied. "Our training weapons against precursor technology. We would die in seconds." Stepped forward. "Where is?" Looked at her with disgust. "Your weak human friend. He was injured protecting civilians. He is in the medical bay." He pointed a clawed finger at her. "You should hide too, Earthborn. You are useless in a real fight." Ignored him. She began walking toward the lower levels. "Where are you going?" demanded. "To the vault." "Did you not hear me? The terrorists have precursor weapons. You will die." Looked back at him. Her eyes were different now, older somehow, deeper. "Then I will die, but I will not hide." She walked into the smoke and darkness. The others followed. They did not know why. Something about the small human girl made them want to follow. Even came, though his face was twisted with confusion. The path to the vault took them through damaged corridors. Bodies lay on the ground. Alien and human soldiers who had tried to stop the terrorists. Stepped over them carefully, her face empty of expression. They found the terrorists at the vault entrance. 20 black-armored figures stood before a massive door made of white metal. The door was covered in patterns that seemed to move, shapes that hurt the eyes if you looked too long. The terrorists were trying to cut through with plasma tools. "The door will not open," one of them said. "The lock requires a specific genetic signature, one that does not exist anymore." "Then we cut through," their leader replied. "The Devourer fleet arrives in 6 months. We must have the weapons inside." Devourer, knew that name too. An ancient enemy. The reason her ancestors had fled. The reason they had hidden humanity on a forgotten world called Earth. They were coming back. Wanted to attack but held him back. We need to wait for reinforcements." The terrorists continued cutting. The door began to glow red from the heat. Made her decision. She stood up and walked out of hiding. The terrorists turned their weapons toward her. 20 guns pointed at one small human girl. "Stop," their leader commanded. "What is this, a child?" Did not stop. She walked toward the vault door with calm steps. The patterns beneath her skin began to glow. "Get back, fool," screamed. "They will kill you." The terrorist leader raised his weapon. "Last warning, Earthborn. One more step and you die." Took another step. The leader fired. The shot never reached her. A wall of golden light appeared before, absorbing the energy. The light came from her body, from the patterns now burning bright beneath her skin. Her eyes glowed the same color. Ancient symbols floated in the air around her. The terrorists fired again and again. Every shot disappeared into the golden shield. Reached the vault door. She placed her palm on the scanner. The entire station shook. The door's patterns stopped moving. They aligned themselves, forming words in a language older than the Coalition, older than most stars. The white metal began to glow. Then a voice spoke. It came from everywhere and nowhere. It was soft and mechanical and very, very old. "Genetic match confirmed." The terrorists stumbled backward. Some dropped their weapons. "Bloodline VERIFIED. Architect primary descent. Generation 4217. Mouth hung open. The word came out as a whisper. "Architect. Welcome home, daughter of the founders." The massive door began to open. Light poured out from inside. Golden light. Warm light. The light of a civilization that had seeded life across the galaxy, built wonders that still stood after 100,000 years and then vanished into legend. Turned to face the terrorists. She was no longer the weak cadet they had mocked. Power radiated from her body in waves. Her voice echoed with the weight of ages. "You came here looking for weapons of the architects," she said. "You found something else." She raised her hand. The golden patterns blazed. "You found an architect." The terrorists screamed. They tried to run. Ancient defense systems activated inside the vault, responding to his presence. White beams of light shot out, hitting each terrorist with perfect accuracy. They did not die. They simply stopped, frozen in place like statues. In seconds, it was over. Lowered her hand. The golden light faded. She looked very tired. And then the other cadets emerged from hiding. They stared at her with a mixture of fear and wonder. What are you?" asked. His voice shook. Looked at the frozen terrorists. She looked at the open vault, filled with secrets 100,000 years old. She looked at her own hands, where the glow was fading back beneath her skin. "I am what humans were meant to become," she said quietly, "and what they will become again." She walked into the vault. After a moment, the others followed. The inside of the vault was like nothing anyone had ever seen. Walls of white crystal rose toward a ceiling lost in soft golden mist. Floating platforms held objects that glowed with inner light. Screens made of pure energy displayed information in a language no living being could read. No living being except. She walked forward like she belonged here, like she had always belonged here. The ancient systems responded to her presence, lighting up pathways, opening hidden doors, whispering welcome in frequencies only she could hear. Followed close behind, his scales pale with shock, moved carefully as if afraid to touch anything. The other cadets spread out, staring at wonders beyond imagination. The architects breathed. The legends were true, they really existed. "Of course they existed," said. She stopped before a large central platform. "They created everything, the first star maps, the first jump gates, the genetic modifications that allowed different species to breathe the same air and speak the same language." She touched the platform and it glowed brighter. "They seeded life on 10,000 worlds. They watched their children grow. They built the coalition to protect them. And then they disappeared," said. 100,000 years ago. No one knows why." "I know why." Waved her hand. The air above the platform came alive with images. A massive fleet of dark ships, creatures of shadow and hunger, worlds burning, stars dying. "The Devourers," said. "They came from outside the galaxy, from the void between stars. They did not want territory or resources. They wanted only one thing to consume, to end, to make everything dark and silent." The images showed a terrible war. Architect ships fighting against the darkness. Weapons that cracked planets. Shields that covered entire solar systems. And still the Devourers kept coming. "The architects could not win," continued. "They could only delay. So they made a choice. They hid their most advanced technology in vaults like this one. They scattered their people across the galaxy, erasing their own memories, making themselves forget what they had been. And they placed some of their bloodline on a small, forgotten world at the edge of the spiral arm." Earth whispered. Earth's voice was heavy with old grief. The architects became humans. They lived and died for 100,000 years, never knowing what they had been, never knowing what slept in their blood. "Until you," said. He had arrived with Commander and High Admiral. The Admiral was an ancient being, more machine than flesh, his eyes carrying the weight of centuries. Nodded. "My family remembered. We passed the knowledge down in secret, waiting for the right time. When Earth finally reached the stars and joined the coalition, we knew the waiting was almost over." "Why?" Admiral asked. His mechanical voice hummed with concern. "Why now?" Looked at the frozen images of the Devourer fleet. "Because they are coming back. The terrorists spoke of it. 6 months. The Devourers have been sleeping at the edge of the galaxy, gathering strength, and now they are awake. Silence filled the vault. Commander stepped forward. His body trembled. In his culture, the architects were gods, beings of ultimate wisdom and power. Now one stood before him, wearing the face of a cadet he had dismissed as weak. He knelt. "Daughter of the Founders," he said, "what do you command?" Stared at his commander in disbelief. Then slowly he knelt too, followed. One by one, everyone in the vault lowered themselves before. Everyone except Admiral, who simply watched with his ancient eyes. Looked at them all. Something like pain crossed her face. "Stand up," she said softly. "Please, I did not come here to be." They rose slowly, confused. "I am not a god. I am not even a true architect. I am a descendant carrying fragments of what they knew. The power in my blood is a tool, not a crown." She walked among them, meeting each pair of eyes. "I came to this academy because I needed to learn, to see how the galaxy fights, to understand what we have become in 100,000 years." She stopped before the instructor who had mocked her, who had called her weak and worthless. "You taught me something important," she said. His voice was barely a whisper. "What?" "That strength without wisdom is just noise, and wisdom without strength is just a dream." She placed a hand on his scaled shoulder. "The architects failed because they thought they could protect everyone alone. They could not. No one can. That is why I needed to see the coalition, to see if the family they built was ready to fight together." And Admiral asked, "Are we ready?" Thought of injured while protecting strangers, of who had fought her fairly and respected her survival, of the cadets who had followed her into danger without knowing why, of himself, cruel but present when it mattered. "Not yet," she said, "but we can be, if we work together, if we share everything. The technology in this vault, the weapons, the knowledge, it does not belong to humans, it belongs to everyone, to every species the architects seeded, to every child they left behind." She walked to the central platform and placed both hands on its surface. The entire vault responded. Screens activated everywhere, displaying star maps, ship designs, weapon schematics, medical advances, things that would change the galaxy forever. "This is my gift to the Coalition," said. "Everything my ancestors hid, take it, learn it, build with it." "And what about you?" asked. Looked at the images of the Devourer fleet, still floating in the air. "I will do what the architects could not. I will lead, but not alone. I will fight, but not as a god." She turned to face them all. Her eyes held a fire that had been waiting 100,000 years to burn. "I will stand with you, human and alien, strong and weak, all of us together." She smiled, and it was the first real smile any of them had seen from her. "The Devourers want to find the galaxy divided. Let us show them something else. Let us show them a family that finally came home." Admiral made a sound that might have been a laugh. "The Council will not know what to do with this information." "Then help them understand," said. "You have 6 months, use them well." She walked toward the vault's exit. "Where are you going?" asked. Paused at the door. "To the medical bay. My friend was hurt today. He will want to know what happened." She left the Vault of Founders behind. The most powerful place in the galaxy, the inheritance of gods. She left it to visit a friend. And somehow, that said more about her than anything else ever could. 3 months passed like water through fingers. The galaxy changed. News of its identity spread across 1,000 worlds. Some species celebrated, the architects had returned. Hope had returned. Others grew angry and afraid. Humans, the weakest species in the coalition, were suddenly the most important. Protests erupted on 100 planets. Demands were made. Expel the humans, destroy the vault, return to the old ways. But fear of the Devourers was stronger than anger at humans. The long-range sensors had confirmed everything. A fleet of dark ships, larger than any ever recorded, was moving toward the galaxy. They traveled slowly, stopping to drain stars of energy, leaving only cold rocks behind. In 3 months they would reach the outer colonies. In 6 months they would reach the core. There was no time for politics, only preparation. Stood in the Academy's central training hall, but everything had changed. Where cadets once trained in small groups, thousands now gathered. Aliens of every species, learning to fight side by side. Learning techniques the architects had developed long ago. Learning from a small human woman who had once scored lowest in every test. Instructor stood beside her, translating her words for species who preferred sound to light, taste to vibration. He had asked to serve as her assistant. When asked why, he simply said, "I was wrong. I want to be right." She did not mock him for his past cruelty. She did not demand apology. She simply handed him a data pad and gave him work to do. Across the room, trained a group of warriors in close combat. His arm was still bandaged from the terrorist attack, but he refused to rest. Trained beside him, having requested transfer to the humans unit. The giant and the small man had become unlikely friends. Had left the academy. He now served as humanity's voice in the Coalition Council, arguing for unity, reminding fearful species that humans had not conquered them. Humans had hidden for 100,000 years, forgetting their own power, becoming weak on purpose. They had given up godhood to become family. The architects could have ruled forever, told the council. Instead, they chose to become us, all of us. Every species here carries their blood, their dreams, their hope. We are not human or alien anymore. We are what they wanted us to be, children of the same star. The council voted to fight. New ships were built using vault technology. Ancient weapons were recreated. Shields stronger than anything seen in protected major worlds. Jump gates were improved, allowing fleets to move in coordination. And at the center of it all, worked without rest. She ate when made her eat. She slept when her body refused to move. She taught and planned and designed and inspired, giving everything she had to a galaxy that had once laughed at her kind. On the night before the battle, she stood alone on an observation deck. The stars spread out before her, beautiful and cold. Somewhere beyond them, the devourers approached, the same enemy that had broken her ancestors, the same darkness that had forced humanity into forgetting. Footsteps sounded behind her. Approached and stood at her side. His scales reflected the starlight. "The fleet is ready," he said. 1 million ships from 800 species, the largest gathering in galactic history. Nodded but did not speak. "Are you afraid?" asked. "Yes." The honesty surprised him. "You carry architect blood. You have power beyond any of us. What is there to fear?" Everything turned to face him. "I fear that I am not strong enough, that I will make mistakes, that people will die because I was too slow, too weak, too human." She looked back at the stars. "My ancestors ran from this fight. They had ships that could crack worlds, weapons that could burn fleets in seconds, and still they ran. They chose to survive instead of winning. Perhaps they were wise. Perhaps, or perhaps they were just afraid like me." She took a slow breath. "But I made a promise. I told this galaxy I would not run, that we would face this together, and I will not break that promise even if it destroys me." Was silent for a long moment. "I hated you," he finally said. "When you first arrived, a small, soft creature from a primitive world. I thought you were proof that the coalition was growing weak, accepting anyone who asked to join. And now I understand that strength is not about size or speed or armor." He placed a clawed hand over his heart. "It is about what lives here, the fire that refuses to die, no matter how dark things become. You have more of that fire than anyone I have ever met." Smiled softly. "Thank you. Do not thank me, just survive tomorrow. The galaxy needs you." The morning came. Stood on the bridge of the Coalition flagship, Resurgence. Around her were faces she had come to trust, at weapons control, on communications. coordinating ground forces, leading the heavy assault units. Outside the viewing window, 1,000,000 ships waited in formation. And beyond them, emerging from the darkness between stars, the Devourer fleet appeared. They were massive, ships made of black metal that seemed to drink light. Creatures of shadow moved across their hulls, hungry and patient. There were thousands of them, perhaps tens of thousands, an endless wave of darkness rolling toward the light. The galaxy held its breath, opened a channel to every ship, every planet, every station in coalition space. Her image appeared on 1,000,000,000,000 screens, a small woman with old eyes and a quiet voice. 100,000 years ago, she began, my ancestors fled. They hid humanity on a forgotten world, hoping we would survive long enough to fight again. We did. We survived ice and fire. We survived war and plague. We survived our own worst instincts. We crawled out of caves, reached for the stars, and found you. Her voice grew stronger. You were not strangers. You were not aliens. You were our children, our legacy, our family. The architects did not abandon the galaxy. They became the galaxy, every species, every world, every heart that beats with hope instead of fear. She looked at the Devourer fleet, at the endless hunger waiting to consume everything she loved. Today, we do not fight as humans or aliens. We fight as the family our ancestors dreamed of, and we do not run anymore. She raised her hand. All ships engage. The battle began. It was not a story of one hero saving everyone. It was a story of millions working together. Ships drew enemy fire while human fighters slipped through gaps in Devourer formations. Engineers kept damaged vessels running. Gas creatures carried messages when communications failed. Commanded from the center, but she did not command alone. She trusted her people to fight, to think, to make decisions without her approval. And they did. They rose to meet the darkness with light of their own. The battle lasted 9 hours. When it ended, the Devourer fleet was broken. Not destroyed, but scattered, fleeing back into the void. They would return someday. Enemies like this always returned, but today was not their day. Today belonged to the coalition. Stood on the silent bridge, sat in his chair, too exhausted to speak, leaned against a console, eyes closed, was already organizing rescue missions for damaged ships. Outside, the stars still burned. Looked at them and felt something she had never felt before. Not power, not pride, just peace. The weight of 100,000 years finally lifting from her shoulders. We did it, whispered. We did it together, replied. She turned to face her crew, her friends, her family. The war is not over. There is so much work ahead, rebuilding, healing, preparing for the day they return. She smiled, tired but real. But today we rest. Today we remember what we fought for. She looked out at the 1,000,000 ships, battered but unbroken. We are not the children of gods anymore. We are not the forgotten species from a small blue world. We are the coalition. We are family. And we are finally home. The stars seemed to shine brighter. And somewhere in the deep vault of her blood, the architects whispered their approval. Their children had grown up well.